So let's begin with the session. Uh, at the outset, I would like to share with you that we represent an organization called BYLD. What we mean by BYLD is build your leadership differentiators. You would have seen in my slide that I shared earlier, these are the brands that we represent. So when you look at these brands, they are they are a name in themselves. They hold some space in content providers in the world. You will find that these brands represent top 20 content providers in the world, and they are represented there in the first 20 content providers. As we move ahead, you will find that because of our association with these brands, we take pride in sharing that we are the largest group in South Asian region, offering value added services in HR, leadership development, business operations, manpower staffing, technology, executive coaching, and organizational development. So this organization was founded by Mr. Yogesh Sood and Mr. Sandeep Buddhiraja. Mr. Yogesh Sood happens to be the CMD of our organization. The senior leadership team includes Mr. Nishit Sood, Mr. Anand Diwan, Mr. Amir Vijay Tandur, and Mr. Ronald Sons. You'll find a little detail about our annual turnover and the names of the brands that we represent mentioned here. You can take about a minute to also go through the values, the core values that our organization lives by, and then we will move ahead. We would like to first share with you the core leadership programs which are available with Blanchard. You will find that on the extreme left, you have building trust. We move ahead, we see coaching essentials and optimal motivation. Now, these three programs are the programs which deliver the value that they represent in their name. So, building trust, the program that we are going to discuss in greater detail today, is the program about how do you manage relationships, how do you build relationships, because trust is the bedrock of any relationship. I'm sure all of us would have experienced that in some aspect of our life. This program also shares with you in greater detail about how to objectively look at what you're doing to create trust, build trust, or possibly break trust. How do you rebuild the trust is also something that we discuss in greater detail today. And then moving on to coaching essentials, this is the program which shares what is the mindset of a coach and what are those bare minimum essentials that a person has to keep in mind before he or she enters into a coaching conversation. So when we are looking to develop coaching as a culture in an organization without making people go through a very regimented and difficult to follow process, this is the program that has found a lot of takers in the organizations. Optimal motivation is the program which helps us understand what are those key tenets of motivation. How do you make people inherently motivated? What are those three aspects that you need to address regularly to ensure that people are intrinsically motivated? And the motivation is not a regulated or regimented process for them, it's more a psychological need. So, how do you take their quality of motivation to that level is what this program is about. I'm sure lot of us would be aware of Ramcharan, Professor Ramcharan, and his leadership pipeline, a fable that he has written and which is a reference point for all of us. So, in that, he has shared that leadership at different levels in any organization has different needs. So, a person who's an individual contributor or a self leader may have a different need, skill, and expectation from the organization as compared to a person who is a man manager, possibly who has become a man manager for the first time. The first time manager or the person who has become a man manager for the first time, or for tenured managers, an SL2 experience program, team leadership meant for managers of man managers or tenured managers, leading people through change. How do you ensure change? Because you will find that for enterprise managers, change and new initiatives is what they strategize about. Execution then comes to the team leaders. So we have mapped Ramcharan's leadership pipeline appropriately to in our programs. We have looked to address the specificities of those questions in these and their requirements in these programs. All the management discussions, all the discussions or conversations that a manager is supposed to have at any level have been factored in, appropriately researched and tested through assessments which are validated, and then we deliver a program which brings in a lot of value about that level or seniority of manager. Legendary Service, the last program in the core module that I would discuss, is a program on how do you build care as a value in your organization. So optimal motivation, leading people through change, and legendary service. If you look at the last three, beginning with optimal motivation on the top, going to legendary service on the extreme right, and leading people through change, these three programs are cultural fitment programs. So when you want the culture of people staying intrinsically motivated and happy about coming to work, this is the program that you deliver. When you want to introduce change and you want to create an infrastructure of change so that the change does not fail, leading people through change is the program. And when you want to build the culture of care or customer centricity in your organization, both for external and internal clients, and by internal clients, I'm sure we are aware, we mean the employees, the fellow colleagues that we work together with. So when you want to develop a culture of care with them, this is the program that we look to deliver. Moving to the support programs. Now, these are the support programs which are available with Blanchard. These are essentially half a day programs. Aside from programs like Frontline Leadership, which will retire soon. However, as of today, it is a 2 day program. And Leadership Point of View, which is the last one in the slide at the bottom. Leadership Point of View is a keynote which is delivered by some person of extreme eminence or credibility, and we have Mr. Yogesh Sood and Mr. Sandeep Buddhiraja. These two gentlemen usually are requested to deliver this program. So if we have any questions about the core programs or core offerings or the support programs, I am happy to answer that. Else we'll move ahead. So moving ahead, we'll start with discussing building trust. Trust as a concept, and what do we at Blanchard mean by trust, and what are the essential components. With Blanchard, we try to objectify any subjective discussion so that we have some clarity on that. So here you will find that we have tried to look at the learning outcomes. So we'll discuss the learning outcomes of this session today. So first is to learn the elements of trust framework. So there's a framework, as I said, we try to objectify a subjective discussion as well. So we have created a framework which addresses trust, a very simple, however, very well researched framework, which absolutely and always addresses it. Sauradip, I hear you. So I have two of my colleagues, Kanika and Indu. Kanika manages West for Blanchard. Indu manages South for Blanchard. My request would be for them to please answer the chat questions which keep popping up. There are quite a lot of them. I'm also assisted by Srishti and Mahima, who are helping me manage the technology part of this session. So that will be great again. Thank you very much. So my request will be if you could please post the questions to me. This is a limited time webinar. If we could be sticking to the subject of this webinar and discussion, it will be great. Thank you very much. So the first deliverable of this session is to learn the elements of trust framework, because there's a framework that we have created around it. There's also going to be a discussion on the 3-step process of rebuilding trust when you manage to break trust. We first need to understand what are the constituents of trust, and then only we'll be able to objectively look at what do we do to manage to break trust. And then we, generally in a program, we also practice 2 trust building conversations, wherein we are able to develop an action plan to engage in more trust building behaviors. We'll see if the time permits, we may want to try that, though I doubt that we'll have time for that. So moving ahead on this. So this is the building trust model that Blanchard suggests and propagates. Now what we're discussing here is that trust begins at able or ability, which means the person demonstrates competence. The second part is believability, which is the person acts with integrity. The third is connected. In connected, the person feels connected to that person because the person shows care towards others. And dependability, which is the person always honors commitment. Now, I know this is seemingly simple, however, there'll be specific steps to it, and you will realize that there are smaller details to it, which we often tend to miss. Now, what Blanchett says is that trust is core to how people work together. Uh, they listen to one another. How do we build effective working relationships is another thing that we discuss here. Moving ahead. Now, these are the essential elements of the trust model that Blanchard propagates. Yeah. So, moving ahead, in ability part of it, we consider that expertise, results, and effectiveness are very important. So if I may ask a very simple question to all of you, and you can write your answers in the chat box. What do you think is more important? Have you ever heard a lot of people say that attitude is more important than competence? It's the attitude which determines. And how many of you agree with it? I'm sure a lot of us have heard people say that. How many of you truly believe that as well? That's the attitude which is more important and not the capability.
I would say attitude is very, very important.
Sure. Thank you very much for sharing that.
I can even upgrade my knowledge or do some knowledge
Hmm,
transition.
hmm,
Right?
hmm, hmm.
Attitude, without attitude, nothing is possible.
Correct. So without attitude, nothing is possible. That is correct. Now, I want to understand from you, was this a general answer or was that specific to trust? Whom would you
Uh,
trust? Was that specific to trust?
it is specific to trust. It is specific to the day-to-day life that we
Okay.
ourselves, industry specific, and everything.
Correct. So
Not
Trust
specific to
is
trust
directly
alone. It is
proportional to
specific to
attitude.
everything, personal or
all
professional.
right. Could I request you all to please mark your suggestions in the chat box so that I can appropriately read that? There are times people speak over each other and I'm not able to make sense out of it. I'm extremely sorry for this challenge that I'm passing to you. Now to
Has to
answer
be
the
directly proportional to attitude.
it will be directly proportional to attitude and with which respect, sir. So let me make an attempt at it now. So trust has got a factor of some deliverable. You will trust a person to deliver on something, or would it be something else? So the trust is usually that I trust this person to behave this way. Some predictability around how the person will act or behave, or if something can be or cannot be done. Now, in that, the very first component that you would usually find, just imagine a scenario where you're planning a birthday party for a good friend or your child or for your parents. You may be very good friends with a lot of people. However, they may be very good at ducking responsibility as well, and you'll be aware of it because you're good friends with them. Would I be correct in assuming that despite being very good friends with possibly someone else, you would still choose to pass on the responsibility of managing that specific task to a person who has demonstrated this result and shows effectiveness in that? A simple example is my 7-year-old daughter. I live on the first floor. I have, let's say I have gone grocery shopping, and from my car I have to bring up the grocery to first floor, and somehow the lifts aren't working. So would I rather call a person who's more capable of doing that, or would I trust my daughter's willingness and attitude to be able to want to assist me? Ability I'm not going to yet. Or would I then look at a person who would actually be able to pick up that 25 kg sack and bring it to the first floor? So I need to qualify two things here. It is yes, absolutely. So it is more because of the ability. If a person is incapable of doing that, that person would not be in your reference set altogether. You would not go to the next steps of even checking the attitude part of it. You will first like to see who all can actually do it. Then only you move to the next steps. And this is very specific to trust, as I'm qualifying again. I am not talking about people whom should be hired. I'm not talking of who should be our friends. I'm just saying specific to trust and a certain deliverable. Yes. Now moving ahead to the believability part. there are some aspects to it which are very important. In that comes honesty, values, and fairness. Now, how many of us have experienced a few people who are very capable? We all said in our friend group, there are few people whom we suggest as well. If you could please write that in the chat box, if you have ever heard people say that this person is capable of doing wonders. It's just that you can't trust this person to do that. This person is not honest or does not operate with fairness, is very cunning. On the contrary, have we ever encountered such discussions? Yes, absolutely. So a lot of us have, or most of the times, yes, absolutely. So, excuse me. So to be very honest, it's on a lot of occasions that we have found that people have very good capability. People are quite capable of delivering what is expected of them. It's just that they are not. One is they lack honesty. They don't operate with values, and an even bigger challenge is that they are not fair. Yeah, they are seemingly partial. I'm saying seemingly because there's very little validity to it. We have not really run a scientific approach on that. However, this is how we experience this challenge. Now, when we move from believability, so now I want to understand the connected part of it. If you could please write in the chat on how many occasions have you found people saying that there's a person who's very honest and fair and has a lot of capability, but somehow we don't connect. you know we don't share a rapport. We are not able to connect. uh, he's good with the people he's good with, or she is good with the people in a group that she is good with. Or there are times that we say that they are very committed to their family members, but we do not share a connection. We don't share that connection. How many of you have a lot of times you've come across this? A lot of times. Oh, wonderful. Yes, most often, many times, mostly. Wow. So now one is that you are capable, and also you are very honest. You operate with honesty and values, and you're very fair. Yet because of certain aspects of your behavior, let's say that you're sparingly benevolent, you're sparingly honest and fair, you are selective about the people with whom you are very, you know so you'll find people say that I'm very close to these three people, they know me in and out. However, when it comes to operating with my team, there are certain constraints that I have to operate in. I can't be doing this, I can't be sharing my weakness, etc. So they're not seen as benevolent, they don't communicate that effectively, and they hence lack rapport with their team members. So I'm sure all of us have agreed that in certain occasions, on a lot of occasions, and almost all the time in certain cases, we have experienced that. Now let's come to the last bit, the last but not the least, a very important factor of dependability. What do we mean by dependability in Blanchard parlance? Dependability is that I can rely on you, I can hold you accountable, yeah, and you take responsibility of what you have agreed to deliver. In responsiveness, we also mean that I appropriately diagnose what is the requirement, what is the need of an individual, and then I respond appropriately. So it will be relatively more clear if we were to look at, there are a lot of people that we would have encountered, and I would, again, yes, ownership, that's a very good word, Shivanand. I completely agree with that. So you would have found that there are a lot of people who have capability, and to the group of people that they are very close to, two, three, or relatively more in certain cases, they are very, very honest with them. They operate with values and fairness, and they connect with them. They connect with these people. Yeah, the connection is very good with the team as well. So they say whenever they are with you, they seem to be very connected to you. Whenever, and I'm again using the same word, whenever they are with you, whenever they are with you, they make you feel as if you are a very important person, and there's a real connection that you feel. However, you also experience out of sight, out of mind, approach with them. How often have you found that there are times that people, when they come and meet you, it's almost as if they were dying to meet you. Yet there are times that when you ask for something, usually you find that on a lot of occasions it is not done, or not on almost all occasions. The second is when you try to hold them accountable, you had agreed to this and this and that, so they said, you could have done it yourself. I mean, you asked for a favor. So they're not really holding onto their promise, and their responsiveness, which is their effort to understand where you are coming from and then addressing it, is relatively less patched up. How often have you experienced it, and how many of you have experienced it? Just a yes in the chat box will give me a very clear idea of how many people have experienced this. Now, when it comes to holding them accountable, they say, okay, I'm doing you a favor, but you can't be then holding me accountable, despite them saying yes. Wow, quite a lot of you. Quite a lot of you have experienced it. Most of the times, yes, absolutely. So there are times that they, even the work that they do it. If they know that they can deliver quality, then they want to hold the halo as well, very high. Yeah. Yes. So when this is clear, so all these four factors working together. So we'll look at few more aspects of what are the benefits of going through this program. It's a very valuable communication tool. I'm sure you would have found that the way we have tried to explain it, there are specific behaviors which you can easily pinpoint, which will provide you the following benefits: the ability to identify issues as objectively as possible. So as I was sharing with you, we have tried to objectively put the behaviors, pinpoint the specificities, so that you're also able to recognize what are the behaviors that are impeding the trust. So you can now use it to introspect, analyze your and others' behaviors, and you can very easily identify improvement opportunities. Whenever you're able to classify or segregate one from other, you are at least relatively more clearer that it is definitely this and definitely not that. So once you're able to clearly classify these, it becomes relatively easier for you to address it. So it's a very positive diagnostic tool for evaluating effectiveness in trust, which is given. I'm sure you would have experienced it. Uh, the outcomes for an organization that we look at are increased ability to build and sustain trust, enhanced relationships, increased levels of commitment, creativity and productivity, and improved morale and retention. Do you agree with me? While I shared with that, there are certain aspects of it which we are going to now go deeper into. We'll discuss that relatively deeper now, post we have agreed to these points. So there are certain unique features which we will discuss as we move ahead in this program. So if I were to ask you, Srishti, if you could help me run the first poll on ability. There was a reason why I shared these information with you after I had discussed in detail the key aspects of the four very important parts of trust. Of the options that are appearing on your screen, if you could please identify those three aspects which are specific to able or ability, the first important aspect of trust. So we see that these are the results that we have got. Now, to share with you what are the correct answers, I think most of us got the correct answer. It is expertise, effectiveness, and results. So you're absolutely correct. Two-thirds of people have clicked expertise. Uh, we have a lot of people who have clicked effectiveness, almost half, a little over half. And the third, results, is also clicked by 43% people. So here we were talking of ability part of it. Yeah. So here in ability, we are talking of competence, capability to be able to deliver it. So what we keep there, very important three factors are expertise, effectiveness, and results. Now, if I could please request for the second poll to begin, which is around believability. What are the key components of believable. Again, these are three. I'll request you to quickly click the three that you think form the part of believable. What makes a person believable? So you will find that we have clicked fairness, values, and let me check, honesty. Honesty has got 82%, values has got 53%, and fairness has got 43%. So we are spot on there. I'm extremely happy that you were paying a lot of attention. I think we've managed to pass on a lot of appropriate information to you, because almost everyone got it appropriately. So these are the three aspects which address the believable part, that you can believe a person. Now, if I were to request for Now, if I were to request for the third poll to be run, the third poll will be on the connected part of it. What are the three important aspects which, when addressed, you feel a good connection with some person or an individual? Of the options that will appear on your screen, if you could please click the three that you think are the key components of connected. So I think we have, we've understood it appropriately, because communication, rapport, and benevolence are the three factors, and they are clearly the outliers here. So thank you very much. Now, if we could run the fourth poll on dependable. Let me repeat, dependable. What are the three key components of dependable? Just take 10 to 20 seconds to answer this. So the clear three answers, which are the outliers, are absolutely correct: reliability, accountability, and responsiveness. So once we understand the key aspects or key components of what leads to building trust, maintaining a relationship, and maintaining that cohesiveness and unflinching trust, if I may ask you a question, can you think of a person whom you trust, whom you would trust with your life? I'm sure all of us have someone in our life whom we trust with our life. We know that they will care more about our life than ourselves. Yes, it's a great feeling. Oh, wonderful. Sharmishta says her mother. Yes, absolutely, I agree. So it could be your sibling, it could be your child, it could be your parents. You'll find on a lot of occasions the people that you share a lot of aspects and different aspects of your life with. They are the ones. Yes, friends, family. Oh, wonderful. Dad, siblings. Correct, correct. That's so wonderful. Now, if I were to request you to please look at this relationship objectively and see if you find all the four aspects of trust being addressed in that relationship by that person. So your trust in that person or in that family, correct, absolutely. A lot of people have shared family, friends. We are all very blessed to have such people in our lives. Now, if I may ask you to objectively look at the situations or look at those relationships and analyze, do you find all these four factors appropriately addressed in these relationships? And would you then agree with me that in cases where we are not able to completely trust people, there is some aspect of this trust factor missing in some relationship? Oh, wonderful, Vishal. Your dad has all the qualities, and I think that's the most beautiful feeling to have. Absolutely. So when we say, is it then appropriate? Now, my request for you to only respond to this question would be, please listen to me and respond to this question only now. Do you think that if any of the aspects of the four important key pillars of trust that we have discussed here, if any of the components is missing, even in the relationships that you've just mentioned here, even in them, or otherwise in all the other relationships where you think this complete unflinching trust does not exist, do you think there is some aspect of that trust which got broken, or which was never allowed to get created because there is some aspect which went missing out of these four pillars? Credibility, maybe no. Okay. Yeah, everyone cannot be perfect. But I'm saying wherever in a relationship you do not have such an unflinching trust, do you think there is something missing out of these four aspects there? Could you look at it objectively and share with all of us? You don't have to share the details. Oh, this is in some context. This is not overarching. I'm saying this is in some context. So I'm not saying that your family has to be able to do something for you, but I think if you trust them to love you wholeheartedly, I'm sure they would have shown their capability in all the four aspects of it. They would have appropriately addressed all the four in their capability to love you. I think in that we are all capable, right? So my request would be to all of you. I would request all of you to please look at your behavior or the behavior of others around you objectively and see, has there ever been an incident where your trust got broken? And there's a poll coming your way wherein this question is being put up. Just answer that question as a yes or a no. You don't have to answer it against your name. This gets shared as a percentage. We just want to understand, have you ever experienced someone breaking your trust? It does not have to be that person who is very critical or very important to you. Have you ever experienced someone eroding your trust ever? And we are not asking specific to family or people. We are asking about people who you do not trust. Have they eroded your trust ever? Have you ever experienced in your life anyone breaking your trust? It could be the smallest of things or the biggest of things. In professional life, some say as a human being, it is pretty possible. It happens regularly. Okay. Which I agree. I mean, that has happened to me on numerous of occasions. So another 5 seconds and we will stop the poll. So this is where it is. Uh, so this is the result. We've got 90% people sharing that they have experienced someone eroding their trust in their life on some occasion. There are 25 of us who do not think that has ever happened to them or occurred to them. You are extremely lucky. Let me say that at the outset. You are extremely lucky because there's an opportunity to erode trust at every step of our lives. So if you've never experienced it, then you're very lucky. So just to answer the question on my behalf, I'll now like to run another poll wherein if I could please request you all to be very vulnerable. See, there's no name calling. We are just looking at the percentage. Nobody gets to know who's saying what. So we are just saying, just be vulnerable, open. One of the aspects of such training sessions is that anything and everything that gets discussed here is in the context of everyone's learning. We are assisting everyone to learn, nothing else. So we will all be very conscious of what you're sharing here. You don't have to put it in the chat box. When we run another poll, just be very honest about, have you ever eroded someone's trust ever? Knowingly or unknowingly, have you managed to erode their trust ever? And let me put both of my hands up and say yes, it has happened to me. I have managed to erode people's trust. I have both my hands up. Vinod, we purposefully, just to answer your question, we purposefully do not want to put maybe, because maybe is, it's not giving us any clarity. It's almost as if the person has not responded. Okay, thank you. Yeah, of course it depends. Nobody is saying that it's not a dependent variable. Of course it is a dependent variable. Right. So if we could end the poll now and share the result with everyone. So here 73% people have quite vulnerably shared that they have never managed to, they have actually managed to erode trust in certain circumstances with someone. So when we are aware that it is possible that we have managed to erode the trust of others, and when we are also aware that this has happened to us as well, I'm sure the person whose trust we eroded would have felt the same way as we felt when our trust got eroded. So in those circumstances, you have two options. Either you move away from the situation, you deny, you stay in denial that I have not done that, or possibly this is not true of me, or we can look at addressing it. And when we look to address it, especially in a work environment or in families or places where it is very important, the people around you are very important. How is it that we look at addressing the trust that we have managed to break? So we have a three-step process there, and I would like you all to be very, very attentive to this. We have a three-step process in this building trust workshop, through which we look to address this challenge of restoring trust. The first step is acknowledge. Yeah. When we acknowledge, what we do is, first is we look at assessing which element of trust have we broken, so that we know what we need to mend. If you do not know, Ankita, I'm extremely sorry. We would not be able to share slides on this. This is an IPR protected content. So I could not have put out a slide on this. So when we look to acknowledge, so what we're looking at is we acknowledge, we first assess which element of trust have we managed to break, and then admit our mistake to the person who's at the receiving end. Because here we are talking people to people. Yeah? So you admit your mistake, and you purposefully, you intentionally invite a reaction, and you listen with empathy. Now please listen to this carefully. You invite a reaction, you listen with empathy. The second step, the first step was acknowledge, which had these three aspects: assess which element was broken, admit the mistake to the person, and invite a reaction with the intent of listening with empathy. The second step is apologize. When you're looking to apologize, the steps are: you first express remorse, you ask for and request the permission for a new start, and you share your hopes for restoring trust. When you express remorse in apologizing, let me let me share something which is very, very important. And I'm sure as I keep discussing this, the organizational outcomes here which are in front of you will start making more sense to you, how this enhances relationships and increases the levels of commitment, creativity, and productivity. Here we are looking to address apology. Now when you apologize, in apology you have to ensure that there are no conditional apologies. You don't say I am extremely sorry, however, but this could have been the reason. Because you don't do that. You don't say that this was conditional, it was dependent. We don't do that. We don't give conditional apology. We give unconditional apology, and that is when the other person will be even willing to allow us for a new start. And you always ensure that you park your hope for restoring trust, because as per our research, once a trust is broken, once a bad experience has been passed on, It takes 12 positive experiences for the person to again start trusting you on that experience. So you'll have to show some patience there. When you have acknowledged and apologized, the third part is act. In act, what do? You identify the actions to take. You also agree about the agreed. You also, I am extremely sorry, I cannot give the slide to explain. I am very sorry for this. You agree about how to move forward. And the third is you set up a check-in time. You assure them whenever you apologize, you assure them. Okay. In act, let me repeat, Ankita. In act, you first identify the actions to take, the actions that you will take with the other person. Second is you take an agreement on how to move forward. The person has to agree that this is how you will move forward, and this will be adjudged or will be under scrutiny or supervision. And the third is you set up a check-in time. You say that you notice, and let's speak in say 15 days time. If you find that I have repeated this mistake, please bring it to my notice. And I'm being very vulnerable and honest here that I will again look at making that amend, though I'll be conscious of not repeating it. Yeah. When you follow this process, this brings about one, your honesty in the approach. Again, if you look at these three aspects, you will find that we are addressing the ability, the honesty and fairness, which is believability, the communication part of it, why, when, how, and the dependability bit, that there'll be a check-in time. Yeah. Hold me accountable to this. And I'm responding to your need that you felt that there's a lack of trust here. So when you do this, when you take these steps, and we deep dive into our workshop, there is a survey that we run which gives you a very clear indication of how you operate. There are times that we tend to duck the questions about what we have done, where we have managed to build or not so appropriately build trust. This survey brings about everything quite cleanly in front of everyone. And there has to be a promise made to us as well that we'll be very keen learners. And we cannot learn unless we agree to acknowledge a miss. So with that, I'll share with you the unique features of this program. It is a very simple and easy to understand model. It is psychometrically sound, and it has universal industry application. I'm sure you would have understood that I have not taken any context ever, and yet we have managed to learn, understand it appropriately. Now, if we want to contextualize it to our current situation and then leverage it, then we practice the conversations also. It's tangible. It's not just theory, which is absolutely correct. It is an objective model, as we shared with you. There's a self-assessment, which gives you personal insights into it. And based upon that, you're able to create your action plans as well. So with that, we will share with you that this is the typical journey that you have with Blanchard on this program. Launch is the part where we launch this program. It could be done as a pre-read material being shared with you. Also, there could be, two questionnaires shared with you wherein you capture when do you erode trust and when is your trust eroded. Then there's a learn and practice session, which is second is apologize. The first is acknowledgement. Oh, Ashish has answered it. Thank you very much. I think I've got such great participants who are assisting each other in the learning themselves. This is so good to see. Thank you very much for that. Right. So as I was sharing the learn and practice part of it, where the theory content and the context then is practiced and mastered, happens in the workshop. And then in the master part of it, the action plan that you have created and all the participants who were there in the workshop who've created that, they implement the learning and they share the elements of trust model with their team members. And then they share with us the progress they have made along with their team members. Yeah. Now with that, we share the sample program material. There's quite a lot of tools that we deploy here so that we have clarity of where we are. There are videos that we play which give you the context of where these conversations are and how they look. You are able to criticize and critically critique how they're playing out. You also get to see how they, in the correct scenario, in a utopian world, how it would have worked. And once you're able to see that, I become open to the questions and answers, because this is the application part of it. Any question that I can answer for the context or the content part of it, I'll be happy to. Thank you. This slide. There's just the there's just the material part of it. I mean, you'll not be able to make much out of it. So if you have any questions, you see my contact details mentioned here. You can send in a message, you can write in an email. I assure you I will respond to that. So Sneh, to answer your question, if your trust is eroded by someone else, you first need to check, is the person willing to take the responsibility of working on that aspect. Bring it to their notice that there's a lack of trust in the relationship. If they find the relationship meaningful, they will take the efforts or steps which are required. You can educate them. It's very difficult to push them. I thank all of you a lot. Thank you very much. You made it a wonderful and experience. I experienced a wonderful session here along with all of you. So thank you very much for that. With this, we come to the closure of our session. All of you, please have a very good day ahead. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.